Welcome to the Ghostly Gallery podcast. It's a place where we explore the world of horror in film, television, literature, and popular culture. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is Bruce Markison, and as always, I'm joined by producer and co-host Tracy Asteria. Tracy, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Bruce. How's everything with you? You've had a super busy weekend so far.
Yeah, it's Hall of Fame weekend in Cooperstown. I, of course, work at the Baseball Hall of Fame. I don't have an exact number, but it's about 20 Hall of Fame weekends that I've worked. And it's a lot of fun. It's a great celebration of baseball, but man, there are long hours.
Oh my goodness. It sounds like it would be a blast though.
Yeah, it really is. Between the Hall of Famers and other players who are in town, it's probably about 100 former major league players in town for the weekend. There's executives, and you've even got non-baseball celebrities. There's an actor, at least one actor I know of, who was in town for this weekend, D.B. Sweeney, who hasn't done a lot of films recently, but at one time was pretty prominent. He starred in a baseball movie, Eight Men Out, back in the late 1980s. He also did a pretty good ice skating movie, The Cutting Edge. He's done a lot of other films too. He's a big baseball fan, and he was in Cooperstown to do a signing over this weekend. So you never know who we're going to get. In past years, we've had other actors. We've had Richard Gere here. We've had Charlie Sheen. Of course, Charlie Sheen did the Major League movie. And I believe when he came out, he was here for the induction of Barry Larkin, great shortstop with the Reds. I believe that he and Barry are pretty close friends. So he's been out here. Richard Gere, I mentioned a moment ago. I mean, that's certainly a huge star. Jim Caviezel, who has done a lot of great TV and films. He did the Frequency movie with Dennis Quaid. He's been here in the past. So, you never know who's going to show up in Cooperstown. You get obviously a lot of former baseball players, but yeah, occasionally we get some acting celebrities too.
Oh, wow. That sounds like it's so much fun.
Yeah, it really is. I should have looked up to see if D.B. Sweeney had done any horror films. I really wouldn't have had time to go interview him, unfortunately, but he's been acting since the 1980s and really good actor. A friend of mine did get a chance to talk to him briefly and got his autograph. He was signing on Main Street. So yeah, pretty cool deal. It's really interesting to see the transformation of Cooperstown, this small town, small village, 1,800 people living here. But during the summer, it takes on a very different vibe, and it really reaches a peak of frenzy during Hall of Fame weekend. A lot of fun.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So fun with that. And also, we're going to have fun with our guest on this week's Ghostly Gallery. Today, our guest is independent film director and actor Joshua Kennedy. Josh has directed about 20 films, including Dracula AD 2015, The Amazing Colossal Woman, The Night of Medusa, and House of the Gorgon, a 2019 film which received the Rondo Hatton Award for Best Independent Film of the Year. Josh has also appeared in the Frankenstein Mobster podcast series, and that actually stars noted actor Daniel Roebuck. So those are some of the many accomplishments for our guest, Josh Kennedy. Josh, welcome to the Ghostly Gallery. Thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I know it's been a long time coming, and I'm very happy to finally be here. So thank you, Bruce and Tracy.
Well, we thank our mutual friend Dan Day for helping to set this up. Dan did appear in at least one of your films, and of course, he's been a guest a couple of times on this show as well. So we appreciate Dan's effort. Josh, let's begin with your love of horror. How did it begin? Were you very young? How did this whole thing, this crazy world of horror, which we all love, how did it begin for you?
Well, I guess my frame of reference always goes back to I was 5 years old, and I had stolen the family's vacation camera, the camera we used to go to Disney World and go to the beach and stuff. And at 5 years old, I took that camera and shot a movie with my little toy soldiers. And the little toy soldiers fought a monster that came out of the toilet. And the name of the movie was It Came from the Bathroom. And at age 5, I was already referencing It Came from Beneath the Sea, the Harryhausen film, um, referencing Harryhausen, Hammer films, and the Universal films. So by at least 5 years old, it was already ingrained in my memory. Anything before that is kind of sketchy and what I remember, but um, my mom is a huge horror nut. I'm sure, when she sat me down at age 3 and said, whenever Vincent Price or Peter Cushing or Christopher Lee come on screen, you have to applaud when they come on screen. That's in this household
Aw.
we have to clap for them. So I have to thank her. My dad also, on the other end, sat me down at age 3 and we watched Cecil B. DeMille's The 10 Commandments, all 3.5 hours. So this love of big, larger than life epics, and it's just the fantasy world of these films really just soaked into my blood at an early age. And like I said, by age 5, I was already long gone. I was a lost cause.
Yeah. Were your parents upset that you stole the camera?
Oh no! I mean, they would buy me the little discs. I mean, it was VHS to begin with, but then they would it's completely supportive. Buy me the next camera that did the discs, and Dad was like, "Oh, do you need more DVDs? Well, we just bought you some." I was like, "Yeah, but I ran out." They were the most supportive parents a monster kid could ask for, and then they would be in my films. And my sister, to a lesser extent, she was a bit more of a diva. Um, in acting in my films. She's 2 years younger than me. So if I was 5, she was 3. And even at the time I was like, Kat, her name's Kathleen, but we call her Kat. I'm like, Kat, I need you to be in my movie. I need you to get attacked by this giant octopus. And she goes, I will give you 3 minutes. And I'm like, oh geez, Kat, come on. She was my first, diva actress to deal with.
Yeah, that's great. So as you got a little bit older, Josh, did you develop a favorite horror actor that you really kind of got gung-ho about?
It's always been Peter Cushing for me. I mean, and maybe that's sacrilege to say that the Holy Trinity, or even, I mean, I've really begun to appreciate Bela Lugosi as I get older. But Peter Cushing is my go-to man, and it's hard to say because it's like loving your favorite kid. It's like I love them all. Like I'll watch any of the Christopher Lee's films or Vincent Price's films, but Peter Cushing has always been my bro, my boy.
Oh my goodness. He is excellent. That's for sure. What about your favorite horror film of all time? Do you have one that you just continually go back to over and over again that you absolutely love?
Oh yes, and people who know me can are rolling their eyes in disgust. It's Hammer's the Gorgon, 1964, Cushing and Lee, Richard Pascoe, Barbara Shelley, and that's just my happy place. And funny enough, it turns 60 years old this year, 2024, 1964.
Oh, wow.
Yes, October 18th will be its 60th birthday. But for some reason, that's just the movie that is my go-to. Love it. Can watch it on a loop. Have watched it on a loop. I am, very much obsessed with that film. But really, any of the Hammer films, the Universal films. I know I'm preaching to the choir with you both, but the Roger Corman AIP films. It's all happy stuff. But yeah, the Gorgon, top notch for me.
So was there also anyone that may have inspired you to become involved in this industry of like filmmaking and acting?
It's funny. We didn't really have, at least growing up, I would make these little films with my sister and my family and grandparents, neighbors. And then it got to the point where, I mean, in school, we didn't really have a film program in middle school. I mean, we did in high school. And so I just moved into the theater world, the theater of middle school, and do all the plays because it's kind of, that make-believe fun world. And when I got to high school, it was my theater teacher, Mr. Green, and the film teacher in high school, Miss Susan Smith, and Green and theater let me direct my first play. He
Oh,
like,
wow.
and funny enough, the play was an adaptation of The Brain That Wouldn't Die, the 1960s woman with the head cut off, living in a pan. And it was so he really it was like, wait, he kind of connected the dots for me of just wait, I can direct my own thing. I was like, I kind of just did my goofy videos on the side. I can actually direct, and I'm good at it, and I like doing it. And then Susan Smith, as the film teacher, just let me loose and just like whatever you want to make. And it was a marriage between those two of just opening my eyes to, hey, people do this. This is not just me in my backyard with my friends. This is a possible thing.
Oh my gosh. Oh wow. Teachers play such a supportive role,
Yeah.
in the development of kids. And that's really awesome that you had people behind you like that.
Oh yes, yeah. I'm very, very blessed. Very, very lucky. Been a crowd of supporters along the way. It's been very nice.
Josh, how old were you when you came to this realization that, yeah, I can do this? This can be a profession more than just a hobby and a side interest for me.
So high school, I mean, freshman year, sophomore year, freshman, sophomore year. So I'm like 13, 14. And then at 14, after, like I said, I directed The Brain That Wouldn't Die. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get the whole drama team together, and we're going to make an epic. We're going to make my ultimate. It's not just a backyard movie. It's going to be a backyard movie and a school movie. We're going to have, everything in it. And that was Attack of the Octopus People, shot when I was 14, 15. And it's this tiny little 40-minute thing that was shot with my actor friends in high school. And it kind of snowballed into this thing because it got released by oldies.com Alpha Entertainment and became one of their biggest sellers on DVD for a long time. It still ends up every once in a while in their top 10 sellers. They released it on DVD, and that was such a mind-blowing. Steve Kaplan and Brian Cray at Oldies saw in this little junky little, crappy, terrible sound, terrible special effects. They saw something in that little film, and I'm forever grateful to them for putting it on DVD, and it got an audience, and that was a life-changing moment for me. I'm like, oh snap, this is happening. This is real.
Yeah. How old were you when you did your first professional full-length feature film?
I always considered the because all the other little films that I made in the backyard were kind of 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Octopus People I always count as the first feature length, because there was some like little side note thing of in if it's the Academy of Motion Pictures and Sciences, it says as long as it's past 40 minutes it's a feature. And I was like, hey, Octopus People is 42 minutes. So I always considered that it's some little loophole. I don't know if it's Academy or the Oscars or something, but I always considered that the official feature length compared to my little 5-minute ones. But I from high school, I went into college and started doing a bunch of films, and I don't actually know what you would consider the feature film. What would be my first real feature? Because it's always kind of been in that weird, murky.
Yeah.
They're an hour long. They're an hour and 10 minutes. It's like, I guess I don't really have a good answer for that. I always consider Octopus People. Oh, that's the beginning of the end.
Yeah. That's interesting that they look at it for that 40-minute mark. And, if you look at the history of horror films, those early films that came out in the 1930s and great, movies like Dracula and Frankenstein and the Universal Studios classics that we've, talked about a lot on this program, a lot of those films were an hour and 5 minutes, hour and 10, hour
Exactly.
20. They didn't even get to an hour and a half. So there's kind of a history of short film and horror that go together.
Exactly. And it's funny. I mean, when you brought up Dan Day, my boy Dan Day, he always, like, whenever a new movie of mine come out, I'm worried that it's too long, it's too short. And he always brings it up. He goes, hey, these the Mummy sequels of the Universals, like they were, 62 minutes long, 63 minutes long, and it's always a little comfort to me. It's like, yeah, you're right. You tell your story. You don't want to overstay your welcome. Tell the story and get out and leave them wanting more, right?
Yeah.
So it's funny you bring that up because I think of that a lot. Of it's like, well, what did they do back in the day? Well, they were sometimes even 58 minutes. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. I was mentioning to you off the air that two of our recent guests were other guys who work with smaller budgets and make horror films and have a similar passion for the genre. Kyle Carvin from nearby Oneonta, and then Robert Michael Ryan, who is out in LA but still works with Kyle. They have worked with smaller budgets as you have during your career. I want to talk about some of the obstacles that smaller budget directors face in putting together a film. I'm always amazed, and I kind of admire what you guys are able to do despite the fact that, there's not a lot of money to work with. How do you do it?
Yeah, it's I think anyone who can finish a film, any film, whatever budget, they're deserving of respect, because a lot of people, I guess the normies, as you call them, just, the people who don't know anything about the films that we love, and they're just, flipping through YouTube or flipping channels. They don't understand or appreciate what goes into making any film on any budget, but especially the low budget films. You're dealing with actors who are most likely not getting paid or being paid by the pizza that they get for lunch. They're volunteering their time. They have families. They have jobs. They can only be here for an hour. They can be here all day. Some of them need a ride. Some of them don't drive. Some of them, I got a flat tire. Can someone pick me up? And then you're out. If you're on location, it's, the weather's changed. It's windy. We forgot this costume. The makeup lady isn't here. The wind is messing the hair. It's just a whole world of obstacles to overcome, and it can definitely take a toll. So I tip my hat to anyone who's willing to at least try it. Anyone who can finish a film is deserving of respect, I think. Because of course you sit back and you're flipping channels. It's like, look, another car chase on. It's just mindless entertainment. You don't realize sometimes what goes into that, especially when you don't have a budget and people are volunteering their time, and someone forgot to charge the battery for the camera. The camera's not working. Someone's forgetting their lines. It's a jungle out there.
Yeah. Josh, is there a minimum amount though that you need, just a bare minimum, and without that you can't do it?
A bare minimum of a budget?
Money, yeah.
I don't believe so.
No.
I've seen some really, really creative student films that were done with nothing, but were creative in how they, used what they had. There was one film, I was judging a South Texas film contest, and the whole film was no dialogue, but it all took place in a box. All it was a cardboard box, and the box was painted a certain color, and it was a short 5-minute film, and this woman was, I can't exactly remember, she was in the box and she was trying to get out and pounding out of the box, and then finally she broke the walls open, and she was in a Texas field. And I know it sounds silly, but it was kind of emotional because the whole story behind it was breaking through the barriers. It was a whole metaphor. It was very artsy fartsy, but it worked. Breaking through the barriers that you put on yourself, and you realize, the world is out here. And all it was a cardboard box in a field, which the budget of nothing. And that was such a moving experience. It ended up winning so many awards. So I think it's. I wouldn't say that you'd have to have something. Of course, it definitely helps.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure. Sure.
But to any filmmakers listening to this, even if you have nothing, I go for it. I've seen films that have nothing but are shooting for the stars, and it almost becomes like an otherworldly experience where it's like, come on, you're almost cheering on the filmmakers, even though they're against all the odds, and the sound is terrible, the camera is out of focus, but you're like, come on, finish the movie, you can do it.
Yeah.
it's almost like a some sort of sport. It's like, come on, you can do it, you can do it. Um, it's not for everyone. I would say that that type of
Yeah.
movie watching, but yeah.
Let's say you've got a good idea and you've
Mhm.
written a good script and you've gotten some actors who are either volunteers or they're willing to work for very low pay. You've got all that in place. I would think the next big obstacle that you're facing is getting locations. And in two ways. Number one, you want the right location that gives you the right backdrop for what your film is about, but also getting permissions to use that particular public location if that's what it is. Is that the next big thing that you have to overcome?
I would say yes. By all means, always, again, the renegade guerrilla filmmakers out there, get permission first if you can, or make sure you're not doing anything illegal, and you just ask for forgiveness if you have to, film on some public land. But yeah, getting permits and stuff, very important. Usually, in my case, it's a friend of someone has the key to this location. It's like, oh, this is the guy, the professor of, biology at the university. He'll let us use his laboratory, but we need to be out by 5. It's like, oh, great. So you try and, capture what you can. Yeah, the actors and the locations. And I think it's just, I know you're trying to do like this step list of actors, location. I think it really boils down to the flexibility of the director, the flexibility of the crew, and having how much how would I say this, experience they have to adapt and be creative. I always tell aspiring filmmakers, it's like, go out and just start making junk in your backyard, start filming your
Mhm.
dog, start editing on your computer, even if you have no materials, you have your phone and maybe iMovie on your computer, start editing together, see how scenes are
Mm.
put together. You don't want to, I think it's a crime for someone who's never shot anything. Suddenly they have a crew of 15, a crew of 10, and it's like, all right, and there's people are the money's being exchanged. I think you really need to start just at the bare minimum and learn what it'll
Yeah.
teach you so much by the time you get a budget and a crew and people. Just start filming stuff, and yes, and then once you have that flexibility to, okay, how can we do this without actually getting, how can we do a car chase without actually endangering all of our lives and the people
Yeah.
around us? You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the creativity behind the director, I think, is most important.
Well, I think that's good advice. In terms of locations that you typically look for, are you looking for creepy houses, cemeteries, parks? What for you is kind of a gold mine of a location?
Oh, a gold mine of a location. I'm 90 minutes east of the Gulf of Mexico. So South Padre
Mm.
Island is just, everyone hop in the car and we're heading to the beach. And that has been a gold mine of just what, because it was the oceans. It was the Mediterranean Sea and Theseus and the Minotaur, where the sirens attack the boat. It
Mm.
was the ocean of Innsmouth, where fish people came out of the water. It was, hopefully, I'm trying to make a mummy movie, and you just turn the camera away from the water and just point at the sand dunes, and you got ancient Egypt instantly with no, no
Yeah.
pyramids, but you got sand. That has been a wonderful location for me. But really, it depends on the movie. For like that I'm writing, it's done ancient Greek mythology, and then it's a Lovecraft story, and it really depends on what movie we're working on.
You mentioned the beach, and I think of a movie, and the title is escaping me right now, but it came out in the early 60s, low budget, black and white. It was filmed at, I think, a Salt Lake out in Utah. Candace Hilligoss started it.
Yes,
What's the movie I'm thinking of?
I think you're
Carnival of
Carnival of
Souls.
Souls.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's when you said beach. That's what I thought of.
Exactly, and it's just like, talk about using what you have. That's a perfect example of, and what a creepy that movie. You, I've watched hundreds of movies, and that one, every once in a while, I was like, yeah, those images just come back into the mind, and they have nothing. They're working with no budget. They just have some guys with white faces and white paint on their faces coming out of the lake, and that is such an eerie. The organ music. Yeah, and it was a rundown like circus attraction, I think, that
Mm-hmm.
was
That's
just
right.
abandoned that they started filming in. Oh yeah, what a great example of using what you have, and iconic. I think that's an iconic movie.
Oh yeah.
I love that film. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
The
yeah.
guy who made it, Herc Harvey, I recall his name, he was really a documentarian. And that
Was
might
he?
have been, yeah, I think that might have been his only or his first feature film. And it's really a black and white classic from that era.
Oh
Now,
yeah, yeah.
when we talk, Josh, about the films that you've done, House of the Gorgon, probably your most famous film. And that's fitting given what you just told us that The Gorgon is your favorite movie, and that's, of course, from Hammer. Let's talk about putting that movie together. It involved a reunion of several former Hammer film stars. Um, and really, this group, they had never in this entirety worked together, but you got them all in this one. Martine Beswick, Veronica Carlson, Carolyn Monroe, and Christopher Neame. How did you bring this collection of stars together for this?
Well, oh man, how do I begin? Okay, so I Martine Beswick was always the one of the great loves of my life growing up. Saw her in 1 Million Years BC and then Prehistoric Women, and I was done. I'm like, that's the future Mrs. Kennedy right there. I don't know. I don't care how it's going to happen. She's the future wife. Anyway, so as I'm getting older, I'm going to college, so I'm 17, 18. I again making these little low budget films and I really like uh, music videos. I did just silly little music videos that I do with my friends. And Martine was going to be at Monster Bash in 2016, 2014, I believe. Maybe it was 2014.
Hmm.
Martine was going to be at Monster Bash, and I got it in my insane little head that she would be in a music video that I was going to shoot, a little 2 minute video of me singing to her. All she would have to do is sit in a chair and react to me in a tuxedo, lip syncing to this ridiculous song. The night is young and you are so beautiful. So I planned the hell out of this. This was going to be the ultimate. I mean, it really is one of my ultimate greatest moments. I had everything storyboarded. I filmed the video twice with two friends, one with my roommate and one with another friend, just to make sure I knew. Again, this goes back to being completely prepared. I knew that video, that 2 minute video, I knew it like the back of my hand. And I was going to film this with Martine. All she would do is sit there for 8 minutes. I timed it. I was like, she just has to sit there 8 minutes. I'm going to get all of the shots and I'm going to be able to cut this together. The whole thing is going to take 15 minutes, and I'm going to know there's not going to be any hesitation, no doubt. Oh, what if we got for no? This was going to be boom, boom, boom. I had the storyboards ready. So I go to Monster Bash and meet up with that's the first time I met Dan Day Jr. And he thought I was off my rocker. He's like, she's not going to do that. I was like, what's the worst she can say is no. That's the worst thing she can say. But what if she said yes? So I go up, she's signing things at Monster Bash, signing autographs, and I come up to her and plop the book of storyboards down on her desk, and I'm like, Martine, I've been in love with you since I was 9 years old. I would love to do a music video with you. All you need to do is sit in a chair for 8 minutes in the parking lot of this hotel during your lunch break, and I will have the video done. And she looked at the storyboards, looked up at me, and was gobsmacked and said, you know what, let's do it. And she
Wow.
comes out. This is a long story. It's all going to dovetail back to House of the Gorgon. She comes out during her lunch break, sits down, and is absolutely silent and just impressed with how, intense. And I knew exactly the shots. Okay, cut. And we're moving the camera here. Stay right there and just react to this. And I had the video. We shot for 8 minutes. She was done. She was laughing her butt off and just went off. She's like, okay, that was wacky. Within 20 minutes, I had the video done and I brought it to her table on my laptop, the final video. And she could not stop laughing. And sure enough, Caroline Monroe was also there at Monster Bash, comes over and sees the video and is absolutely thrilled. And it was cemented from there. Martine she was like, darling, this is wonderful. This is fabulous. So every time she came back, that was 2014, every year she would come back for another Monster Bash or another convention. We would do another music video together.
Hmm.
And it got to the point that Caroline was like, well, I want to be in a music video. And so Caroline's in one of them. We did, I think, 3 or 4 or 5. They're all on YouTube, funny enough. Just type in Joshua Kennedy, Martine Beswick, and these silly little things come up. And it got to the point, the last one, where we're all having dinner and we became friends. And, the trust between us was impeccable. And Caroline says at one convention during lunch, she goes, we've made all of these wonderful music videos. We all should just really make a movie. And that I was done with that. On the plane ride, I want to say that was in Pennsylvania or somewhere. On the plane ride home to Texas, I wrote out the plot for House of the Gorgon on the vomit bag of the airplane. And I was like, they gave me the green light. They're like, we really should. They're almost joking about it. It's like, we really should just make a film together. And once Caroline and Martine were in, it wasn't difficult. Veronica Carlson, lovely, God bless her. She just passed away a year ago, 2 years ago. She was in. And then Christopher Neame, funny enough, was also at that convention we were at. And he hadn't seen Caroline since Dracula AD 1972. And once he heard that this was going, he goes, absolutely, count me in. So just to have them say yes was a dream come true. And then I realized, oh, snap, we actually have to make this.
Yeah.
So I wrote the script. Everyone loved the script. We were meeting via Zoom because the ladies were in London. And we needed a lovely leading lady. It was, and sure enough, Caroline Munro's daughter is Georgina Dugdale, and she's an aspiring actress too. So she became the lead in our film. So it's almost the second generation in a way of the Hammer heroine. Caroline Munro's daughter's in it. How freaking cool!
Yeah.
We all came down, flew them over. We shot for 5 days. Shot the whole movie in 5 days down here in South Texas. We rented a banquet hall that they use for birthdays and weddings, and we built all of the sets in the banquet hall and shot the whole movie in 5 days. And how we survived, I'm not sure, but the film was done, and it was a huge labor of love for everyone involved. But man, was it a wonderful, wonderful week.
Yeah. So it starts with one actress and it leads to another, and then you bring in Christopher Neame, and it all comes together. And it wasn't even initially your idea. It was Caroline Munro.
Yeah, exactly. We make the joke. It's like, Caroline, this is all your fault,
Yeah.
So, yeah. And just an off remark as life tends to have these moments where it's just like, we really should do this. And it's like, that's actually a really great idea. And that was House of the Gorgon.
Yeah. For those who may not be familiar with some of these Hammer films, but Martine Beswick did a number of them, but was really good in my mind in Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde. Veronica Carlson did several, including Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed. You mentioned Caroline Munro and Christopher Neame were in Dracula AD 1972, which I think is a really underrated movie. Neame plays the villain, Johnny Alucard. Great name.
Yes.
So, I mean, these are all accomplished actors that you're working with. Did you feel a lot of pressure once you got them all together on set in Texas? Given the stature, you were thinking, I want to put on a good show here.
Well, yes, yes, and I I had the cast and the crew of my Texas cast and crew sit down, and we watched scenes from the Hammer films. It's like, okay, this is who we're dealing with. This is going to be a big freaking deal. But honestly, the ladies and Chris couldn't. Again, being so blessed and lucky, they were wonderful, and they really got into the spirit of the things. Dan talks about it. He wrote this wonderful making of article for Little Shop of Horrors, the magazine. And he said that they could have easily just, turned their nose up at this and acted, oh, this is beneath me. This is no budget. This is terrible. But they all had such fun energy about them. It was like, it was a group of kids putting on a play. And at the end of the day, they're all actresses, and I mean, they're performers. They love to perform, and giving them a chance, especially Veronica, giving her a chance. She hadn't been on screen in 23 years, something insane like that. But that spark of acting and performing never left them. Um, and so just getting to see them excited to like Martine brought out her old script binder that held Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, and I saw my script in that binder. I'm like, whoa, this is such a crazy, full circle moment. But they had such a wonderful time. And again, I'm trying to be so professional, but they were goofing around. I was like, okay, if they're goofing around, I guess I can lighten up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you obviously respected what they had done, but it really sounds like they respected your ability too.
Yes, which was godsend. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that says a lot for what you were able to do on that set. You mentioned that we lost Veronica. I got to see her at the last Monster Bash convention. Dan Day introduced me. She was lovely to talk to, and she seemed to be in great health. And then was stunned to find out the next year that she had passed away. How well did you get to know Veronica?
It was very pleasant because we would talk like once every few weeks. I would give her a call. She was a very avid texter, if you can believe that. And just texting, I remember The Mummy, the Hammer Mummy was on TCM, and she was watching it and didn't realize that her character name, Anna Banning, or at least the name Banning, was from The Mummy. In House of the Gorgon, I mean. Her character in House of the Gorgon was named after a character in The Mummy. And she was watching The Mummy at home and sent me a text, "Did you put Banning from The Mummy?" I'm like, "Yes, Veronica." And so that was wonderful. And it was sad because I always send her flowers on Valentine's Day. And the last texting conversation we had was because she passed away sometime after Valentine's Day, maybe the week of Valentine's Day. And amazingly enough, the flowers were delivered to the wrong house. And she sent me this whole thing. She said, "It's been the whole thing. The flowers were delivered, but they're finally here. And I just want to thank you so much. They are lovely." And my last text to her was, "Thank you for being you, Veronica." And within 2 days, she had passed. I was like, that's, I mean, I'm choking up just thinking about it. So we were friends. We were friends. It was a friendly thing. It's just silly text here and there. And it was what a wonderful, wonderful lady. The cliche, they don't make them like that anymore, is so true. Bless her so much.
Oh my gosh, that is so heartwarming, and just to have such an endearing friendship with somebody is very phenomenal. Thank you for sharing that story. So Josh, I have another question for you.
Sure.
You have already provided us with some really great advice for future filmmakers, but did you have any guidance to share on how these future filmmakers can make a break into the business?
It's really, I mean, and we're living in such a wonderfully film friendly technological world. I mean, I have a friend in high school who's a TikTok like Superman. I mean, he's got thousands, millions, maybe hundreds of thousands of followers. Smiley, I don't know what his handle is. Shout out to you, Smiley. But we're in terms of breaking into the business. I just say, any filmmakers out there, just start doing it and start posting it, whether it's on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram. Just start making stuff and don't wait for Steven Spielberg to knock on your door. Just start, and you'll be surprised at what audience members find you, what fans find you. I mean, that's what I did. I just like to make this, and the audiences followed. So leap and the net will appear, my fellow filmmakers. Sounding so prophetic, but it's true. And there, back in the day, you'd have to shoot on film and get it developed, and you'd send it off to a laboratory and get it back. Hopefully it was in focus, and then cut it together. Now you can shoot entire movies on your phone. There's no excuse for any filmmakers. I don't know what to do. Just start. And build a YouTube channel, build a following, and before you know it, Hollywood might not come calling, but then again, they might. So, yeah, I just say just do it. I mean, that's sorry, copyright. Is that Nike? Just go out and get
Oh
it
my
done,
goodness.
guys.
No, but that's great advice. And I mean, social media is a
Yeah,
wonderful tool, you know, especially the last couple of years. So it's really helped boost a lot of careers out there.
absolutely. No, it was just I've been so blessed to have friends and people who some of them I've never even met, but who watch my stuff on YouTube and then add me on Facebook as a friend, and then they
Mhm.
just follow me along, and that's what some of my greatest friendships have. I mean, that was Dan. It's a whole slew of people just like, hey, I've seen your stuff. I'm add me on Facebook. Oh, your films are great, and I'm a monster kid, and they're all out there. Social media has connected the dots. So if it worked for me, it can work for anyone out there. So
Oh, nice. What do you think about the horror genre today? And is there a project that you're really looking forward to seeing or reading over this next year?
I'm actually kind of excited for. Let me rephrase this. I'm cautiously optimistic for the new Nosferatu adaptation.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, and it's by I'm blanking, Robert Eggers, correct?
It is Robert
Yes,
Eggers,
which
yes.
I think The Witch is his The Witch is outstanding. That's probably my favorite horror film of the past decade. Um, I think that wasn't crazy about The Lighthouse, but he did The Witch, and if he's doing Nosferatu, I am all behind it. I was like, again, cautiously optimistic, but yeah, I'm excited for Nosferatu.
Oh, yeah. I'm really excited for it too. I can't wait for it to come out on Christmas Day. I'm just kind of like crossing off the dates on my
Right.
calendar.
And it's time. It's time it's like the Draculas, they come in waves, right? I was like, what's the last real gothic Dracula? Is it Bram Stoker's Dracula in 92? Like, when was the last real Dracula that we've had? It's been a
Yeah,
while.
it's been a really long time, I think.
So it's time. It's time. Robert, old buddy, don't let us down. We'll see.
What
We'll see.
what do you think of the cast that he selected for Nosferatu?
Oh, I was just excited because I'm a big fan of Shadow of the Vampire with
Hmm.
Willem Dafoe. I don't know if you guys have seen that. Um, the fictional making of Nosferatu. So they talk about Murnau and how he hired a real Dracula, and the guy playing Nosferatu, or Count Orlok, is Willem Dafoe. And so just seeing Willem Dafoe in this is it just warms my little fan heart. I'm like, oh, cool.
Ah,
Um, he's not playing Nosferatu. He's playing, I think he's Van Helsing.
yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, but Willem Dafoe, and then I want to say I hear the voice. I don't know if he's on screen, but the voice of the dad from The Witch. He has that low voice. He's like, "Oh, the darkness is coming," or I don't know. I want to say it's his. Excuse me, it's his voice. But yeah, I'm excited.
Nice. Awesome. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on that one when it comes out.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
Josh, one of the things you've done that I'm curious about, it's a little bit of a different direction, but you're part of this podcast series, and Daniel Roebuck is in that. Now, obviously, Tracy and we host a podcast. I guess it's not really a series, it's interviews, but one episode doesn't necessarily correspond to another. We're primarily audio, not visual. This podcast series that you have done, the Frankenstein Mobster, explain a little bit more what it's about.
It's based on I want to say it started as a graphic novel, and then Mark Redfield, who's another mad genius that I love, we've kind of been in the same circles throughout the independent maker stuff, and he is a wonderful guy, and I just asked me, he's like, hey, I'm adapting this graphic novel into a like kind of it's a radio play, an audio podcast radio play. The way I thought of it was just like the old, the Shadow, the old Mercury Theater type things. That's how he sold me, and I really have such a small, like, blink and you'll miss me, or I'm trying to think of what the radio equivalent of that is. It's like tune out for a second and you'll miss me. I have like three lines, but it was so cool to be a part of. And the final project is wonderful. Redfield and his guys always do these wonderful, very rich audio plays. He did one with, funny enough, Caroline and Martine called Sinbad and the Pirate Princess. And the way I told him, I was like, this is a Harryhausen movie for the ears. And yeah, so Frankenstein Mobster, he's, and I'm blanking on how it comes about. He was a gangster that gets revitalized by an experiment and then gets revenge in the fashion of all great, revenge stories. Yeah. He gets revenge on all the mobsters that did him wrong. But I want to say it was a graphic novel before he adapted it to the radio or for sound.
Yeah. How do you record this? Do you do it in segments, or are you all on a call together? How does that work?
Funny enough, he sends the script, or at least how I did it. I know with the bigger parts, they got into a booth and they did it the old-fashioned way. But again, I'm like the sidekick that's just like, oh, look over there, and I'm a few assorted voices. And so he just sends me the script and says, do 5 different versions of this one line. And so I'm in my in low budget fashion in my closet with the doors closed with a sweater over my head and a microphone, and I'm just shouting into this microphone in the dark of my closet waiting for clean audio.
Yeah.
And that's how my part was done. Again, it's little things throughout. But that's how I did mine.
Yeah. Now, it stars Daniel Roebuck, who is a longtime character actor, but he's a huge fan of horror. He was in the Munsters remake, the Rob Zombie film that came out, I think it was last year. Have you ever communicated with him in any way? Email, phone, anything like that?
I didn't actually, but funny enough, he's becoming a cool guest at Monster Bash. I know he's been there, I want to say 2 years in a row. And so I've never met him. I have so many questions about The Fugitive that I want to ask him.
Yeah.
Excuse me, because I love The Fugitive. But yeah, he just seems like a really cool guy. He's in The Fugitive and he gets to play Grandpa Munster. Come on, that's a great resume right there.
Right. He was also in a show that I really liked, not a horror show at all. It was a cop show with Don Johnson, Nash Bridges. And he was like the commander of the police unit. I want to say he was on for like 2 seasons, and he played a real nitwit that none of the cops respected, but it offered a lot of comic relief, and he was really good in that role. I don't know if you saw Nash Bridges, but
no, I didn't.
like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. Just a few more questions before we let you go, Josh. I understand from a reliable source that you recently traveled to England
Yes.
for the purpose of preparing for a future film. A, is that true? And B, can you talk about it?
Well, let's yes and no. It was my 30th birthday, so I went to London to celebrate my 30th birthday. And the big thing was I was getting footage at Black Park. So if anyone out there who knows what Black Park is where Hammer filmed all of their forest scenes. So anytime you saw Transylvania in Dracula, or if it's Germany for the Gorgon or Russia for Rasputin, it's all Black Park. And it's this tiny little just wildlife reserve with a lake and some tall trees. But I was armed with Wayne Kinsey's book called Hammer Locations, and he breaks down the little sections of Black Park where they filmed at. And so I spent 2 days there just nerding out and finding trees of my own. And I actually spent a lot of time taking photos. I had screenshots from the Dracula films and all of the Hammer films, and then find the exact camera setup, and then take a picture of me at the tree where maybe Christopher Lee was stabbed in the Pirates of Blood River. And then I photoshopped myself into the scene once I got home. And I got 15 photos of just awesome geek madness. But in addition, I did get some footage of trees that will be implemented in perhaps a future film or two. The big film I'm working on right now is Mantipus, which is half man, half octopus. And it is my tribute to the Herman Cohen, Michael Gough films of England. So that's Horrors of the Black Museum, Conga, Black Zoo. And we're shooting on 16 millimeter film, which I've never done before for a feature. And it's taken me 5 years, but we're just hopefully by Halloween it'll be ready to go. But that's Mantipus. That's the big one I'm working on right now.
And you're still filming it right now?
Oh yes, we're right there. We're like 98% done. There's a few insert shots, but yeah, it's I'm very proud of it. It's my favorite thing that I've done. And I did House of the Gorgon, but I'm very, very, very proud of it.
Now, you've done some comedy horror films. Is this comedy horror or straight horror?
No, this is the way I describe it is if Herman Cohen and Michael Gough made another film in the 60s, this would be it. It's shot and lit and costumed and acted exactly how it would have been done in I put it as 1962 Mantipus would have come out. 1962, 1963. And I'm very happy with it. I hope people will be happy with it too. I don't know if people will understand the references, but this very, very niche market. But yeah, I'm happy with it.
It sounds like it's going to involve some really advanced special effects, makeup effects.
Oh yeah, well we have my wonderful contact is Mitch Gonzalez, and he makes these fantastic masks. He did the snakes for House of the Gorgon, and he made the fish people masks for Innsmouth School for Girls. He made this magnificent giant rubber pullover mask for the Mantipus, and it has tentacles and a beak. It's beautiful, beautiful. And we're going very, very old school with string and strobe lights and fog. No CGI in this one. And you can't really do CGI, at least with 16 millimeter film, the way I'm doing it.
Yeah. Right. No, I was just asking about the release for 2024, Halloween of this year. So that is the plan. And when that is done, do you have another project ready to go after that? Ready to work on after that?
Oh, yes. We got The Hour of Shadows, which is kind of my answer to Hammer's The Devil Rides Out and to The Devil a Daughter. It's very Dennis Wheatley inspired and black magic. We're probably more than halfway done filming that, but I have this bad habit of filming something and then losing interest in filming something else and then going back and I mean, I guess there are worse ways to work, right? But yeah. it's like whenever the muse sings, it's like, oh, it's Mantipus time. Oh, it's Hour of Shadows time. But yeah, it's keeping busy and keeping the fun alive. I think that's very important for any directors out there.
Yeah. It's a good way to work. It keeps you interested. It's sometimes hard to just work on one project at a time straight through. You do end up going back to other projects. I find that with the writing world that sometimes you're working on two or three different things in stretches, and you kind of go back to them and they overlap, and yet it works out. Our guest has been Josh Kennedy. Josh, independent filmmaker. Again, his movies include Dracula AD 2015, The Night of Medusa, House of the Gorgon, and his latest Mantipus scheduled to come out around Halloween of this year, 2024. Josh, we really appreciate your time and some great insights about making films without some of the resources that some of the mainstream directors have. We love the passion and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It was a great honor to talk with you both, and I guess meet you both via this. This has been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. Our guest has been director Josh Kennedy. We thank him. We also thank Tracy Asteria, producer and co-host for the Ghostly Gallery. Want to thank all of you for joining us in this Museum of the Macabre, and we hope we'll see you next time right here in the Ghostly Gallery.